Right, so about time I made a new video. Here it is. It's going to be a weird video because it's going to be like one of those weird movies where it starts at the end and goes back to the start, because I've had my first attempt here at leadwork casting using casting sand. A friend of mine, he wanted 4 of these signs. This is a really old brass sign that was on his gate, and he wanted 4 more of these made. But he said to me, he brings me odd jobs, he said to me, can you make me 4 of these? So I was like, he said, but preferably with a border around it. So usually I would go the CNC route, and I said, look, I can CNC this out of wood, can V-carve it or whatever, make you these out of wood, or I could go down the route of casting this in silicon and then making it out of resin, which is what I did for him on some 100-year-old church sign brackets. I had to replicate one, so I did that with the casting method and out of silicon. But then I've been recently, I've been doing quite a lot of work for Leadwork roofers. Been doing quite a bit for CM Leadwork on Instagram. Check him out, he does some really nice leadwork casting, etc. So I thought, why not have a go at leadwork casting myself? So I thought that would be something different. I love trying new things, so I thought what I'd do is show you some of my attempts at leadwork casting. So what I've done here is I lasered this wooden surround just a little bit, tiny bit bigger than the sign, so that it's got the border that they wanted. It had some old screw holes in it, so what I've done with them is I've used some clay, and I filled up the old screw holes to make them flush. And there's a tiny little gap down the side here. Done the same again, filled that in, and then this whole lot, the wood surrounds and the metal sign, they are hot glued to this backing piece of wood. Then what we've got here is I've got this surround that I made just out of some leftover wood. So this is going to be the casting surround. This is what we're going to use to fill with the oil and sand. So what we've got here is some casting sand, oil bonded. So it's basically, it's sand that's bonded together with oil, as you can see, because I have already done one, and this was my very first attempt. So here it is. This is the one that's came out. This is my first attempt at it. This is what it's come out like. I'm pretty pleased with that for a first attempt. Never tried leadwork casting. So I've made one. I need to make 3 more of these. They certainly got some weight to them. So there's one. I thought I'd try one before I brought you on the journey of trying it, so you wouldn't have to see all my terrible fails. So here's the sand that come out of it. You can see where the lead has burnt the oil out of the sand, but basically the oil, as you can see, it bonds the sand together. I've never tried this before, but it bonds the sand together so it holds its shape. And then what you do is, to stop the oil and sand sticking to whatever it is you want to cast, you just use some talcum powder on there as a release agent. The release agent just lets you pull the sand away from whatever it is you're casting. And then what we've got here is a little camping stove, little gas camping stove with a cast iron skillet. It's just a small one, and I'm glad I didn't show you my first attempt, because I actually burnt my hand, even though I was wearing welder's gloves. So I wore welder's gloves, but boy, that thing gets hot. So I've attached this wooden handle, just lets me pick it up, and I'll still wear welder's gloves, but it lets me pick it up without I thought my welder's gloves would be able to manage the heat of that handle, but no, they didn't. So this just lets me pick it up without burning myself, because burns are not good. So what we're going to do is, I'm going to clear this mess up, and then I'll show you how we pack in the sand to make the actual mould. I'll screw this down with 2 screws. We're going to pack this in with sand. Then with the talcum powder that I'm going to put on in a minute, that's going to let it release, flip it over, we can melt down some lead and fill it up. So let's get started. Right, so here we go. So what we're going to do is, first of all, we're going to screw this down. This is our surround. So I decided there's a little twist in this frame, so I thought best thing I could do is to screw it down, stop it moving. So we'll get that in there. Just get this one in the other hole. Right, so that's just going to keep it. It's going to keep it nice and flush to this bottom piece of wood while we work with it, and it's not going to move anywhere while we're trying to put the sand in. So first things first, we want to make sure that the sand doesn't bond to the actual part we're trying to cast. Plus, obviously, I've used a bit of clay in there. I don't want it sticking to the clay, so we use some talcum powder. And I'm not shy. Let's get some in there. Get some talcum powder in there. I like to get it around the hole. Just remember, I'm not an expert. This is I've only just tried this, but I'm pretty pleased with how the first one went. So I'll get some talcum powder all in there. I'll get it around the sides, everything. Make it so it releases. And then what I do is I'll tip that out just to get rid of the excess. And I'm just using a little paintbrush just to remove the excess, but there is a fine coat of talcum powder in there now on top of the sign. So yeah, it's still there. Right, some people I've only watched a couple of videos. I'm not gonna lie, I haven't done tons of research. I like to jump in feet first. Some people use a sieve, and I quite like the idea of using a sieve just to get that first layer in there, because then you've got much finer sand that's going to settle in around your letters, around your part that you're casting. I don't have a sieve unless I went and got my food sieve, and I don't particularly want food in my vegetables. I know what you're thinking, do you really eat vegetables? But occasionally, yes. So I'm just going to actually crumble it up a little bit by hand. So we're just going to crumble that sand in there. It actually uses a lot more sand than I was expecting. So the more I can crumble it up, the better. It'll get into the letters better. You're not supposed to be able to use this sand, or you don't really. I'm told you don't use it again where it's burnt. I am going to use this bit, but I'm going to use it right at the top when I've just to fill up the mould. But I'll use all fresh sand at the bottom where I'm actually going to be casting back into again. So I just break it up a bit with my hands to get it into the spaces. I'll show you the technique I use in a minute, or what I used on the last one anyway. It sticks together a lot better than I was expecting. It stays inside that wooden frame far better than I was expecting. I didn't realise how well the oil actually bonds the sand together, but it does. I'm trying to make this sand last for the 4 that I need to make. I think I'll just about be able to do it with this little bag of sand. I didn't buy too much. Right, so there is the rough start of it in there. So what I'm going to do is push it all down my fingers, try and get it into the outside spaces. So I'm going to try and force it down the side of the little wooden frame that I've created. Like so. Now, rather than putting any fresh sand in there again now, I'm actually going to reuse the sand that just came out the last casting. It's not terrible, and this isn't going to be touching the lead. It's just going to be filling the back of this. So, I'm just going to get this in there. Crumble it up a bit with my hands. Break it all down. In a minute, I'm going to pressurize this, or I'll show you. I just use a block of wood and a hammer and pressurize, crush it all down on top of what I'm trying to cast. So we get all this in here. I didn't actually put this much in last time. I actually left a big gap, and the sand still stayed there. It didn't move. So there's that. Right. So that's pretty good. Now what I need is a bit of wood, because actually I've just realised the bit of wood that I used to knock it down last time is now the handle on my pan. So get the hammer. What we're going to do is push this in here up to the edge. Just pushing it all nicely down against what I'm trying to cast. This is going to crush the sand down. This is my way of doing it. I see other people use, the couple of videos I have watched, they're just tapping it down with a bit of wood, but I thought, let's get the hammer in there. No job can go wrong with a hammer. Hammer fixes everything. So there. Give it one more. A few more just around the edge. There we go. Noisy. Now, that is the sand compressed inside the mould. So, we take the screws out. And what we have to hope is that it will nice and easily release from the part that we're trying to actually mould. Just give it a little tap to see how easy. There we go. See that? Then what I done last time, push that down there, if you can still see in there, where it was a little bit, because this sign's not perfect, this is an old sign, the letters are actually all slid inside of a, I don't know what I call it, there's like a bracket, they're all slid inside, all these letters can move. I pushed them up as tight as they could go so they wouldn't move, but you get a little bit of a mark in the sand where the bracket, the backing plate is. So very gently with my finger, I just tried to smooth that out a little bit, just to try and hide, just so it wouldn't stand out quite as much. So that's pretty much it. That's the replica of that in the sand. It's held very well. I'm happy with that. Now comes the scary bit. Now we've got to heat up the lead. So this went everywhere last time I done this, just so you know. It went everywhere. So I'll move that out of the way. I'll move the sand out of the way. Right, now what I'm gonna, let's move the camera over to the lead a minute. Right. So here's our lead. Here's our lead on our little camping stove. So what we have to do for this is push this little lever down on the camping stove, turn the gas on. There it is on. Now I'm quite an impatient sod. I could just leave that for the camping stove to heat up the skillet and be done with that, but I am impatient, so I am gonna double team it and hit it from the top with a blowtorch as well. Speed the process up. All these loose bits on the top are just bits that were actually they're the spillage bits from when I spilt it. This actually is just lead, bits of lead sheet that have been cut. I've cut it with metal snips. So I cut it with like mechanic or whatever, metal snips. Just cut the lead down into little strips. Put that in the cast iron skillet. Speeded up the melting process rather than having it there in one great big lump. Lead does have a very low melting temperature. Doesn't take a lot to get it up to heat. But you want to make sure you get it really up to temperature so it's really viscous, and it will pour easily into the mould. Most of the heat at the minute is just going to be getting absorbed by that cast iron skillet. Once that gets up to temperature, because they do hold the temperature very well, but once you get that up to temperature, then the lead's going to start absorbing the rest of the heat. It's now starting to liquefy, and what we'll have to do is try and remove the worst of the slag off the top. Seen a couple of different methods. I actually saw a guy the other day use wood shavings. He threw wood shavings in there, which kind of stuck the all the crap that was in the lead stuck to the wood shavings, and then he just picked the wood shave. He just sort of scraped the wood shavings off the top. At the moment, I'm not going to try that. So that's going to be enough with the blowtorch. Sorry about the noise. That's now going to start getting up to temperature. I actually just used a wallpaper scraper, quite a thick chunky one, so it can absorb the heat. I actually just used that to get the crap off the top. So that's it. You can see it's pretty much fully liquefied now. So all I do is scrape that into the corner. The beauty of lead is if it goes wrong, you can just melt it back down again and try again. That's the beauty of lead. So I've scraped all the crap into the corner there. I then need to put that on something that can handle the heat. So I've got a great big old chunk of oak that can handle a little bit of heat. So what I'm going to do is just take out the scrape off the rubbish and take that out. Now, I know what you're thinking. I should be wearing a mask. I have got the door open, some ventilation coming through here. So it's molten. I should have already had a mask on. Right, you probably won't be able to hear me now, but It is well ventilated in here with 2 doors open, but you want to be wearing a respirator when you do this because it gives off some fumes. So I'm just going to pause this, move it over, and then we're going to do the pour. Right, so what we've got here is I'm going to wear these thick welder's gloves. They don't absorb as much heat as I actually thought they would, but with the wooden handle on there, I should be fine. It did splat everywhere last time, so you've got to be careful, but they're quite long. Go up the arm. So I'm going to use these to hold it, and then we're going to pour this, fill this with lead. So here we go. Just go slow and steady, because it will, like that. It is very... Just get that all in there. It does cool down very fast. So fill it up. A little bit more. That's probably about it. So we turn the gas off. That's it now. I know there's a bit of a spillage on the back there. It is lead. It's soft as anything. You can literally just cut, and any excess you can literally just cut it off with the metal snips. And then what you can do is, and what I done last time, like I say, it's very soft. Just around the outside, I actually just ran it on the belt sander, just to make sure it had a nice soft edge, nice clean edge. So I just need to leave that now to cool down. Once that's cooled down, we can get it out of the sand. So this has been sitting here a little while now. I was spraying a little bit of water on the back just as a test. You can still see there is a little tiny bit of steam coming off, so there is still definitely some heat left in there. Don't touch it too soon, don't burn yourself. Nobody wants to get burnt. So there is still some heat left in there. We now need to we're going to remove this though from the sand. So that easy. Out it comes. This one's actually probably got a few more defects than the first one, and these are here. And I'm going to say that is probably because on the first one I poured it really all in one go. I didn't really hesitate. I didn't try and do it slowly because I wasn't filming it. I was just wanted to fill it up, and I just got it all in there fast. This one I obviously poured it slower to try and show you all, and I think because I poured it slower, this is probably, I'm just guessing, some of you experts can tell me, these little bits here are probably just where it cooled down, because it cools very fast. But the first attempt, like I said, and the next two that I do, I will just kind of pour them outright. I won't be slow with it, I'll just get it full up so it's all molten. So I need to clean this out now, but it's still looking nice. As you can see, the sand is burnt. It's taken it's burnt out all the oil in the sand, but look how well that stays in the frame. Still nice and solid in the frame. That oil really does hold it together, but it's burnt all of the oil out of the sand, so basically all of the sand where the casting's been done isn't really any good anymore. Now I suppose one of the best ways to clean this would be to put it in a bucket with a toothbrush and to brush out all of the sand. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to clean this out with some water and a brush, and then we'll have a look at what it's turned out like. So I have wet it If you put some water on it, I use the paintbrush to brush out some of the worst of it. Some of this is still quite stuck. Sand does stick well. Like I say, obviously I put a lot of pressure on that as I was hammering it down with the wood, so we'll just use a pencil, because I use anything that comes to hand. Get that in there, just clean out any of the excess. Don't use a wire brush on it because the lead is too soft. If you use a wire brush on it, you will just scratch the hell out of it. Lead is very soft. That will literally just bend in half now if I wanted to. So get a bit of a rag, and I'll just give this a wipe. Right, so what we've got is, this is number 2. I think number 1 actually came out better. That's probably because I wasn't filming it. Filming it made it worse. So there's number 1. And there's number 2. And the defects in 2 are here. Don't know how. I probably could sand them. I'll probably better just file them and sand them out. Now, lead is super soft, so as you can see, I do have some excess on the top here. You can just come in with your tin snips and you can just trim that excess off. So I'll just trim the excess off with the tin snips, and then take the excess, throw it back in the tin, throw it back in the pan, melt it back down next time. So it's quite easy to trim any excess off. But then what I've done on the last one, so I'm just going to trim the excess off here with the tin snips, and then I'll put this on the belt sander, sand down this edge, sand all the 4 edges down, just run around with a little hand file. It's very easy to file, very soft, and then don't know, those little bits give it a bit of character, look. But I do believe number 1 came out better. I am new to this, but I'm pretty happy. As my first one, I'm personally really happy with that. That came out pretty nice, and it's quite a good learning curve. So far so good. I'm pretty pleased with this lead casting. If you are a roofer and you want a lead, I do branding, lead stamps, so you can stamp your logo on your roof, on your roofing when you do your lead work. I also do Leadwork chill moulds. So if you want a mould machined, take a look on my Instagram, and I'm probably going to do a YouTube video for one. I might make a 2-part or 1-part cap pour lead mould to cast lead cap pours in. It's on my list of considerations, so I might make a video on that one. But thanks for watching. If you ever have a go at this, make sure you're definitely using all the safety equipment, because it is dangerous. It's very hot, very dangerous, but good fun. Make sure you put the respirator on right from the start. If possible, I probably would recommend doing the whole thing outside. It's just safer all round if you do it outside. So any suggestions, tell me what you think, and thanks very much for watching. Appreciate it. Take care and see you all soon.